Hello everyone, and welcome back to another deep dive into American history. Today we're talking about the American Civil War, the deadliest conflict in U.S. history. It lasted from April 1861 all the way to May 1865, and it cost the lives of more than 620,000 soldiers, plus thousands of civilians. That's roughly 1 in every 4 of the nation's adult white males who died. If you want to understand how a nation almost tore itself apart over the question of slavery, this is the story for you. Stick with me, because today we're going to cover everything: what caused the war, the major turning points, the bloodiest battles, and the incredible legacy that still shapes America today. Let's get started. First, let's go back to the 1850s. The United States was growing fast, but it was splitting in two. The North was industrializing, building railroads and factories. The South was still tied to cotton and slavery. By 1860, the issue had become impossible to ignore. Then, in November 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected president. He was from the Republican Party, and he had clearly said he wanted to keep slavery from spreading into the new Western territories. 7 southern states, South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas, immediately seceded from the Union. 4 more joined in the following months. They called themselves the Confederate States of America. Jefferson Davis was their president. Lincoln refused to accept the breakup. He ordered U.S. troops to hold federal forts and supply posts in the South. The first shots of the war came on April 12, 1861, at Fort Sumter in Charleston Harbor, South Carolina. The Confederates opened fire. The Union garrison surrendered after 34 hours. That single event pulled the entire country into war. By the summer of 1861, both sides were rushing to build armies. The North had the advantage in population, 23 million people versus the South's 9 million. But the South had the advantage in leaders, organization, and morale at first. The very first big battle happened on July 21st, 1861, near Manassas, Virginia. It was called the First Battle of Bull Run. The Union thought it would be an easy victory. They marched toward Richmond, but Confederate troops under Thomas Jackson, who would later earn the nickname Stonewall, held firm. The Union Army panicked and fled back to Washington in disarray. The war had just begun with a shocking defeat for the North. 1862 would be a year of blood and change. The Union Navy started the Anaconda Plan, a tight blockade of southern ports to choke the Confederacy. In the West, General Ulysses S. Grant captured Forts Henry and Donelson. Then came the Battle of Shiloh in April. It was one of the bloodiest battles of the war. More than 23,000 men killed or wounded in 2 days. Robert E. Lee became the Confederacy's greatest general. At the Battle of Antietam in September 1862, Lee turned back a massive Union army in Maryland. Antietam was the single bloodiest day of the entire war. A week later, President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. It freed all slaves in rebel states, but it didn't free anyone immediately. Still, it changed the war's purpose. From that point on, the Union was fighting to end slavery as well as save the Union. Lee's invasion of the North ended in disaster at the Battle of Gettysburg, July 1st to 3rd, 1863. This was the war's turning point. More than 50,000 men died on those 3 days, the highest casualty count of any battle in American history. Lee was forced to retreat, and the North never lost the initiative again. Meanwhile, in the West, Union forces were winning big. They took New Orleans, captured Vicksburg, splitting the Confederacy in two, and destroyed the Southern River Navy. By 1864, the Union had chosen its commander-in-chief. Ulysses S. Grant was given total control of all Union armies. He was tough, relentless, and willing to accept huge casualties to win. William Tecumseh Sherman was marching through the South with his famous March to the Sea. He cut a swath of destruction, burning everything in his path from Atlanta to Savannah. Sherman's goal was simple: make the South so hungry and miserable that it would surrender. On the Eastern Front, Grant and General George Meade finally cornered Robert E. Lee. The Wilderness, Spotsylvania, Cold Harbor, these were places of constant, savage fighting. Lee's army was shrinking every month. In June 1864, the Siege of Petersburg began. For 10 months, Union troops dug trenches around Richmond. The Confederates held on until the very end. The end finally came in April 1865.
On April 9th, at Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia, Lee surrendered to Grant. His words still move us today. "I have fought it out as well as a man could." The war was over for the Eastern Army. In the West, Confederate forces kept fighting until June, when they surrendered in Galveston, Texas.
President Lincoln lived to see the victory. He had just spoken at Ford's Theater in Washington on April 14, 1865, when he was shot by John Wilkes Booth. He died the next day. The man who had kept the Union together was gone, but the Union survived. Of the 620,000 soldiers who died, the majority were in the Union Army. Disease killed more men than bullets. The South lost its entire economy. Its cities were in ruins, and 4 million African Americans were suddenly free. Slavery had ended, but racism and inequality remained for a long time. Today, the Civil War is taught in every school in America. It reminds us why we still celebrate Memorial Day, why the flag has 50 stars instead of 13, and why we still argue about race, states' rights, and the power of the federal government. Every time we fly the American flag or sing the national anthem, we're still living with the consequences of that terrible 4-year struggle. So what does this war mean to us today? It proves that even the greatest nation can almost destroy itself. It shows the power of leadership, Lincoln's steady hand, Lee's bravery, Grant's determination. It also shows how much one idea, freedom, can cost. If you enjoyed this deep dive, drop a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Comment below. Which battle surprised you the most? Or which general would you have wanted on your side? I read every single one. Thanks for watching. History is not just what happened, it's what we still do with it. I'll see you in the next video. Stay curious, stay informed, and God bless America.